Welcome to Living Legends, a podcast telling the stories and celebrating the lives of seniors, presented by GrandPad and the Lien Media Podcast Network.
Welcome to Living Legends, the podcast that honors the wisdom, life lessons, and experiences of extraordinary older adults who have lived life boldly and have incredible stories to share. I'm Scott Lien, CEO and co-founder of GrandPad. It's my privilege to guide you through these inspiring conversations with some of those remarkable people. Throughout my years working on technology designed to empower seniors, I've had the opportunity to hear countless stories that aren't just captivating, but are also full of profound insights. Living Legends is about sharing those stories with you so we can all benefit from the journeys these individuals have taken. During each episode, we'll sit down with a special guest who's navigated life's highs and lows, emerging with wisdom that can only come from life's experiences. Whether we're discussing resilience, the value of family, or discovering a new purpose later in life, there's always something good to learn. No matter your age, these stories are for everyone. Get ready to be inspired, to laugh, to reflect, and to look at life through a new lens. Today's episode, I'm really excited to be joined by Carol Daur. She's a retired nurse, just about to turn 92 in a few weeks. We're going to just have fun getting to know each other because I just met Carol on Saturday for the first time. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single moment. And I have to say, I'm really lucky to meet Carol because a friend and listener who heard one of our other podcasts, podcast number 1, Living Legends with John Oxter, said, "Hey Scott, you need to meet Carol." So here we are. Great to meet you, Carol. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Excellent. Well, we're going to get started, and maybe just tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? Tell me about your childhood.
Okay, well, I was born in Plainview, Minnesota, at my grandmother's house. I was delivered there.
Tell me about your parents or your family. Did you have siblings?
Yes, so I'm the youngest of 6 children. I was born to Albert and Helen Vogt in Plainview, Minnesota, and then they were able to move into a farm near Kellogg Weaver in that area. It was a big 250-acre farm with a big house on it with 4 bedrooms, and so it just fit us because we had 6 kids. And it was really interesting and nice living there. But of course, this was in 1932, and it was very difficult. They had to work really hard on the farm to make it produce. But tragedy struck when I was 5 years old. My mother died in childbirth. In fact, Dr. John Oshner, I'm not sure his name was John, this John's dad, was with her when she died. And I didn't know that until I was in nurses training, and I came home and worked at this hospital for a while. And then I met him there, and he told me all about what happened when my mother passed away. So that was very special. So anyhow, now we lost our mother, and I had 2 older boys that were home, older brothers that were home. We were doing quite well, but then 4 years later, our father passed away from a stroke, and so we were really not knowing what to do. My father had a brother who was single, probably about 50, living in South Dakota, and he came to live with us. So he and the older boys ran the farm, and we were able to grow up there. Wow. On that farm.
Wow. So if I do my math right, you're about 9 years old, and you'd already lost your mom and dad at that age. Is that right?
My mother at 5 and my dad at 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so this is about 1940 or so, right?
I think he died in 40, and because I know it was a year before Pearl Harbor.
Your family had just gotten through the Depression, lost both parents, and now World War II. Mm-hmm. Wow. That's a lot. What do you remember as a child during those years? Is it very vivid for you?
Well, as I look back now, it was really a lot of fun living on the farm. Being the youngest, I didn't have an awful lot of responsibility. And I had a brother that was 2 years older than I was, and he and I used to just do a lot of fun things. We built our own toboggan, and we would go down the toboggan hills, which the toboggan was built out of barrel staves, and we held it together, and we'd go zooming down the hill. And we had a creek running through the farm, and it would freeze, and so we'd go ice skating in the wintertime. And in the summertime, we'd go fishing along the creek and try to catch some fish and play with the other neighbor kids along the way. So it was a lot of fun. But I dare not deny the fact that it was very difficult. We're so thankful for the Uncle Louis was his name, and he came and lived with us and helped run the farm. But then after time, I was growing, and my brother Bill went to Plainview and lived with our grandpa and grandma. And I stayed on the farm with my brother until he was tired and he wanted to go to the Navy. And so I went to live with my older sister and her family here in Wabasha. And that's how I graduated from Wabasha High School.
Growing up, did you ever feel like you were lacking or missing things, or did you just make do and you felt like you had what you needed?
We never felt poor because everybody around us was the same way. We just learned to make do. I know the adults, they would get together on certain nights of the week, I guess, and play cards. Saturday night, everybody went to town, and sometimes there was a dance. Probably every Saturday night was a dance, so they did that. And when we could, we went to church in Plainview with Grandpa and Grandma.
Isn't it interesting how everybody, because everyone else was kind of in the same boat, you felt rich in the sense that you had your brothers and sisters and a great, a wonderful uncle, and you just got by and everybody had fun.
As I look back on it now, I really, I know that we were really blessed to have him there and to have the farm, and that all our siblings really pulled together to make our lives work. My older sisters and my older brothers, but my older sisters, they had to take over the house, and one of them taught me to sew, just took over as a mother to me and to my brother Bill. One
of the big differences I see about in the world now compared to back then when you were growing up or when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s is back then families all lived close together. For my family, there was 3 or 4 generations, like we were all within less than 10 miles of each other, and we'd see each other all the time. Families were geographically connected, where now we're kind of spread all over the place, right? Which I understand now you live in California. Where do you live in California?
I live in a town called Costa Mesa, which is located about 50 miles south of Los Angeles. And I moved down there just 10 years ago because of my granddaughter that was born, my first and only grandchild.
So now, jumping back to child, you're growing up, and then I understand you got into nursing. Tell me kind of about how that all came about.
My brother-in-law's brother was married to a lady, and she met me when I was in high school here. She lived in St. Paul, and she decided that I was going to be the nurse that she never was able to be. Now, this woman was hard-drinking, smoking, swearing lady, and with a heart of gold, really. And I always wanted to be a nurse, but I said, I can't afford it. I can't afford it. And so when I graduated from high school, I went to live with her in St. Paul, and I worked in an office. So she just pushed, and so I said, all right, I'll go out to the university and take the test. Maybe I'll fail, and then you'll get off my back. Well, I didn't fail. And so I did. I was admitted into the School of Nursing at Anchor Hospital. No longer exists. It was Ramsey County Hospital. So she just set things up, and I went in and stayed 3 years and graduated, and here we are.
Wow. What was your relationship to this lady? Was she a family member?
No, I was not related to her. She was married to my brother-in-law's brother.
Okay. And did she just saw something in you and knew that you were bright and hardworking, and she kind of took you under her wing? Is that it?
She definitely did.
Okay.
She definitely did. I would never have become a nurse if it hadn't been for her.
Huh. And now, you said it, you couldn't afford it, right? I mean, all of us back then, we had to scrape and skimp to pay for school, college. How did you pay for college then?
Well, this was in 1950. Tuition at Anchor Hospital School of Nursing was $300.
For the year?
3 years.
For 3 years?
Yes.
$300 for all 3 years?
Yes. And we lived in a dormitory, and we had all our uniforms were given to us, and we were fed 3 meals a day there, and that was included in $300. The only thing we had to buy was toothpaste and, a few little things like that. But yeah, $300.
just by working then? Did you put yourself through school, or did some other people help you?
No, I lived on what my brother gave me. You know, he gave me the tuition, and I had everything I needed. I just lived there, and all my classmates were about as poor as I was, so it was fine.
This lady, you said, she sounded like she was quite an interesting lady. Smoking, drinking, swearing. Tell us about her. She sounds like an interesting lady.
Well, apparently she grew up in Michigan, and I think she had a rather difficult childhood. But she's probably very smart. And she met Ivan, her husband, when he was in, I think, the Navy, and he was in Michigan, I guess. And so they got married and came back after the war, came back there and lived in St. Paul. She was a party lady, you know, but she smoked a lot, and she drank a lot, and she swore a lot. And like I say, she had a heart of gold. So what can you say? which is a key requirement for being a nurse. So she's very empathetic and really cared about people and cared about you. Yeah. Apparently she became an LVN, a 1-year nurse, and she wanted me to be an RN. And so I did.
Now, when you graduated, went off to nursing, was she pretty proud of you?
Oh, yeah. She was at my graduation. Yeah, she was. And then I kind of lost track of her. I think they moved to Arizona. And so I stayed in touch with her, but then it kind of faded away.
So isn't it interesting when we kind of look back at our life and you think about people who were important in your life and helped set you on a trajectory and who believed in you? She
was the person that saw to it that I became an RN. Wow. That was her determination. Wow. And so I am eternally thankful to her.
Maybe as you look at that, and one of the goals in this podcast is, what can we learn? How can we all be better people? Maybe one of those is helping young kids who are maybe in high school or college trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up, and being a mentor to them. As you think,
yeah, absolutely. She was definitely a mentor to me. And like you say, she took me under her wing, and I needed somebody. I didn't have a mother, and my sisters were married by then and busy. So she was really, really the guiding light to become an RN.
Awesome. So maybe just share any other advice you have for people. So you've got 92 years of experience. Think about somebody who's maybe 20 years old. And how old were you when you went off to nursing school? You're like 18 then, maybe? Yeah. So if you can think back, what advice would you have to give to 18-year-olds?
Try to find what you are really interested in. Maybe not just interested in, but something that you really love. And pursue that. And don't be afraid if you get so far along and you don't like that anymore. Look around and take another area if you want to do that. But I think it's very important to be able to do the things that we love.
Great advice. So now you told me also that you've traveled a fair amount in your life. Tell me about some of the places you've gone and what you've loved to see in your travels.
Well, my husband was from Germany. And so he would like to go over and visit his family. And so we went over there quite frequently, about every other year for quite a while. And then while we were in Germany, we would stay sometimes for 2 months. And we had an apartment that belonged to his cousin. And so we took some trips from there. And we went to the island of Majorca in the Mediterranean. Spent 2 weeks there, and then also 1 year we went to Turkey. But then we did a lot of cruising. He loved to cruise, and so we did the Mediterranean, and we visited Greece. Some of the other islands there in the Mediterranean, I can't think of their names. Patmos, we were at one, and on that trip we also visited Ephesus. And we took a land tour of Greece, which was the most amazing thing. The archaeology that is going on there, the digs are just amazing. So, yeah, that was a very special trip. But then after he passed away, I did a lot of traveling on my own. With friends. I've been to China and Russia, Australia, and of course Mexico and Canada and England and Fiji and all that kind of stuff. Caribbean.
So now as you've traveled all over the world, what are some of the things that you've seen as you've met people in other countries? Are people more alike or more different? What do you think?
Well, of course, I think we all have a lot of similarities no matter where we are. It's always interesting, and I think it's educational for us to be in other countries and understand their culture and find out that people do things differently than we do, and it's okay. And then just even their food that they eat, the way they eat their food and preserve it, and like in Germany, they like their beer.
Right. They have good beer there.
They do, yes. So I guess if I had one place I'd really like to go back to, it would be Tuscany, Italy. It's just absolutely beautiful there. And the rolling hills, and Italy is a beautiful country.
And good wine and good food, right? Mm-hmm. Here's a really tough question. Obviously, a lot of wars around the world now, and Russia, Ukraine, in the Middle East. Just a very difficult time. What do you think we can all do to try to bring some peace to the world?
Well, I'm very much a Christian, so I pray a lot, and I pray about the wars that are going on, the people that are being destroyed. Mm-hmm. I'm very, very sad, at least to say the least, about the whole thing. I guess, if you study our centuries back, there were always wars.
Right.
There were always wars. And even those little beautiful castles along the Rhine, they're there because there was a war. The big castle wanted the little castle.
Right.
People were killed.
Right.
I don't have much. The wars are terrible. I heard something said, what if somebody threw a war and nobody went? Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
But they follow their leaders. And
right.
So yeah, it's frightening, especially now. I think the United States is very possible to have cyber attack. Probably a lot of them, because the casinos in Las Vegas have already been hit. They demand millions to get their casino up again.
There's a lot of big healthcare institutions have been too, hospitals and insurance companies. Yeah, so that's just a new form of warfare. Instead of throwing rocks against the castle wall, they're doing cyber attacks.
Yeah, they'll cut off our electricity and gas, and to me that is very frightening.
Do you think though, like travel and understanding other people and other cultures and getting to know them, do you think that could help us get to know our neighbors and maybe bring some peace?
I think there's a possibility of that. What I found in countries that we've traveled is that they're all very, very proud of their country, and it is the best country. They will probably defend it at whatever it costs.
Right.
As we travel, then we understand that. But if they don't travel, and a lot of them don't, they follow their leaders, do and believe that they are the best, and they do everything that they're told to do. And then there's the communication systems are so that, like places like North Korea and many, many other places, they really don't get any other information from the rest of the world.
Right. They just get the propaganda, what they're being told, and then they get brainwashed by that.
Right. And so they don't want anything from the United States, and they think we're really, really bad.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of wrap up on some fun topics here. Carol, I understand you're a really avid reader. Tell me about some of the things you've been reading recently, and what are you learning?
Well, I've really become interested in our founding fathers. I have read a couple books on George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, John Adams. Hamilton is my favorite. He was a rebel, but he was brilliant. And Madison and all of them in the writing of the Constitution, and of course Abraham Lincoln. I'm really reading a great book on him now, of how difficult it was for him because of the start of the Civil War. I mean, and he started it. He had one goal in mind, that the slaves would be free, no matter what. Other people were saying, "Oh well, let some states have a few slaves. Let's do this." He was adamant. He said, slaves are to be free. And he had a great deal of objection from people who were supposed to be helping him and helping him make decisions, but they simply didn't agree with him. But he never veered from what he knew had to be done to preserve the United States of America.
He was a man of principle and was going to stick to his guns no matter what.
Yeah, and he had so many, many, many setbacks. I mean, he wasn't good looking. People made fun of him. Stove type hat and long, gangly, and didn't want to wear too many really good clothes, and he was made fun of. And at the start of the Civil War, a lot of the battles were lost. And more people said, "What are you doing? You're going to destroy us. We can't win this war." And he said, "We're going to go.
We got to do the right thing and free the slaves."
Yeah, the slaves have to be free. And so the book I'm reading now is very interesting because it goes into more the nitty-gritty of what he dealt with. Here's one thing about reading his presidency and all that. But when you get down to the nitty-gritty and how did he handle General Lee and General Grant at the end of the war, I like stuff like
now,
that.
You mentioned Hamilton. Have you seen the play?
Yes, I have. Yes. Yes, he was a rebel. I love that guy. And then I was so mad. Well, he was married and doing pretty good. He had an affair. He had an affair with a married woman. Then they blackmailed him. The wife and the husband blackmailed him, and he had to pay money.
Wow. I didn't know that. Wow. So you have a big reading pile of all these nonfiction books. So you're constantly reading.
I do.
Yeah.
I read all the time, and I cannot read fiction. Why should I write something somebody wrote when I can read what went on in history?
And do you think a lot to learn from history?
Oh, my, yes. I mean, that thing about Lincoln is one of them. He had one goal, and he wasn't going to veer from that goal. And sometimes that's what we have to have. And he had so many people against him. Even his very personal advisors were saying, "Oh, you made a mistake. You shouldn't go there. We got to stop."
Very, very interesting. Thank you for that. So one thing I want to go back to is you graduated from high school here in Wabasha, and this friend of yours saw potential in you. So were you really good in school, very bright in high school here?
No? I was about middle.
Okay.
Well, one thing I found out then, and we didn't have money, and I found out after I graduated I really needed glasses.
Okay.
We didn't know it, and we probably couldn't afford it. So once I graduated and got a job, I was able to get myself glasses. So that's my excuse for not doing good in high school.
One last question. So when you look back at your life of almost 92 years, just what are some really happy things that stand out, that are big memories in your life?
Well, I have 3 children, 3 boys. Very happy with them. They're very good guys. They're successful. They love their mother. And we have a good time together. We spend holidays together out in California because that's where they are.
Family is a great memory. Awesome. Well, it's really been great to get to know you and hear about your life. We could go on forever, but we have to cap it there. So thank you, Carol. Really, really enjoyed getting to know you. And to all of our listeners, thanks for listening today. And I invite you to reflect on some of the lessons we've learned from Carol today. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast, Living Legends, and share it with others. And you can always learn more about GrandPad at www.grandpad.net. Of course, we're on social media on all the usual places of Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And if you ever have questions for us at GrandPad, you can call us at 800-704-9412. Thank you.
You've been listening to Living Legends, a podcast celebrating the lives and stories of seniors, presented by GrandPad and the Lien Media Podcast Network. You'll find Living Legends at WinonaRadio.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to like and subscribe.